Just to start with some introductions, with the agenda, we'll do some introductions shortly, and then I'll run through a bit about MPLS, how it works, what it does for you, what it's going to offer you and your customers, and then do some myth busting at the end. So we'll come on to that, but you'll see that there's a lot of myths around MPLS, and it's nice to bring it back down to reality. This should run through. We've got plenty of time for questions at the end. If for any reason we don't get through all the questions, we'll collate them and put some answers out via email to attendees. Okay, just to introduce myself to start with, as I say, my title is IT Interface Manager at Spitfire. I've been here since early 2015. But prior to that, I was the UK MD for a London-based IT service provider, effectively doing similar to what many of the people on the call do today, i.e. providing IT-related services to generally SMEs or larger companies around London, although we did have a US and beyond footprint as well. What that's done for me, importantly as well, I was a Spitfire partner, so although I've only been working here since 2015, I've been working with the guys at Spitfire since about 2008. And we were a reseller of services as well as a long-standing partner. In fact, when I joined that organisation, I think we'd been a partner of Spitfire's for 4 or 5 years prior. My background is all across IT. I started in EPOS systems back in the days, moved into application development, infrastructure management. We were one of the first organisations to do hosted exchange. And lots of service outsourcing, so whether that was looking after your 10-man desktop business or outsourcing, larger IT functions, we covered a lot. So a fair generalist in the industry. Currently, I've moved on a bit. I've brought hopefully some of that knowledge into Spitfire. My day-to-day is probably focused around pre-sale support, so I work within the Spitfire sales and partner teams, making sure that our account managers have got all the knowledge, all the skills technically, but also an understanding of what you guys out there are selling and supporting your customers on. So rather than just you coming to Spitfire and saying, can I have a circuit, we should be asking you why and assisting you in identifying the right product for what you're trying to sell to your customer and helping you sell that. That involves a lot of training, both internally, but also we do training for our partners, and I'm more than happy to have technical discussions with you guys and with your customers to make sure you're delivering the right service. My other hat is around product development, standardization, so we definitely welcome feedback from you as to what your customers are needing so that we can tailor our products and develop them accordingly, making sure that what we're selling is fit for market as well as obviously technically working. Just going to introduce you to one of our customers, and I'll actually pop back to the previous slide after. So Adrian represents Igloo.com, customer of Spitfire since 2 or 3 years now, so a fair go, but I'll sit back and let him tell you a little bit about him.
Yeah, so hi everyone, I'm Adrian, as I've already been introduced. I'm the infrastructure team lead at Igloo. We sell under several brands, Igloo Planet Cruise. We sell ski and cruise holidays direct to the public, online and over the phone. Main part of our business really is selling holidays via 2 call centres, and Spitfire helping us connect these 2 call centres together, and also assisting us in connecting our home workers. We have about 80, 90 home workers now, assisting us in connecting them into these 2 call centres. What's really attractive to us, to this solution, is Spitfire has taken the connectivity requirements out of our hands. We can easily plug sites in, plug users in, without much extra configuration. It's a completely managed solution. Spitfire manage the routing and security ACLs for us. This process is still underway, but something that we're really keen to drive through. Another benefit is direct access to SIP trunks, which we also take through Spitfire. So everything remains within the same network, and we can sort of get on with other things, and connectivity is taken care of, as I said. So that's what's really attracts us to the solution.
Yeah, we'll go a bit more into detail about the solution as we go through. So just to let you know that it's not just me sitting here on my own. One slide I did skip there is a bit about Spitfire Partner Service. So we have a dedicated team looking after our partners. Our sales focus is approximately 50-50 split, direct sales and partner service. But as a Spitfire partner, you do get a lot of benefits. So obviously we give you access to a good range of products. We feel that we've got the UK's widest range of business broadband, Ethernet, but along with that, IP engineering telephony solutions. And what we're talking about today, MPLS, is one of our IP engineering solutions. But it builds on the back of both our Ethernet and broadband portfolios. One thing we're able to do on that is obviously work across multiple carriers. So we don't just use BT and don't just use Virgin Media, for example. So we can plug in the best best circuit suitable for each of your sites. Spitfire as a whole, very well-trained people, and that doesn't just mean that our technical staff are technically trained. All customer-facing staff go through basic Cisco networking certification, CCENT qualification, also known as ICND1, I believe. And that means that if you're talking to a account manager at any level, after their first 6 months, they will have been trained and certified by Cisco. They understand networks. If we take that back to our technical team and our support team, our aim is to answer 85% of calls, resolve 85% of calls by the first person you speak to. So we don't have the old concept of first-line operators where all they're doing is the old-fashioned logging and flogging, taking call details, doing automated emails. They will be resolving the calls, and we meet that SLA week in, week out. Call centre is UK-based. In fact, it's London-based. It's in our head office, and we're averaging 6-second call answer time. So again, not long IVRs, not long queue waits. Straight to the person who's going to resolve the problem. Comprehensive training is included, and this is out to you guys as partners. We do workshops, particularly on our telephony systems. We'll make sure that all documentation is handed out to you. We have an open call policy, so you can call through to your account manager, gain access to technical people as required, and make sure that you understand the products you're selling. And that goes down to not just Spitfire products, but also products we package and sell such as our hosted phone system like 3CX and Zip Communicator. So you can get detailed hands-on training, and you can then go and sell and support those products and add value to your customers. What we hope this does for you is it allows you not just to build new revenue streams by selling products you don't currently or don't have in your bag, so to speak, but also maintain those streams because you're being backed by a partner that's working with you and promoting your business as well as the products you're selling. Okay. So moving on from that, let's talk about MPLS. But before I go into MPLS and get really technical, I'm just going to take you back to the sort of key part. And this, for some of you, may be very clear, maybe teach you to suck eggs. But I have this conversation frequently, and it's trying to explain how a circuit works. So when we come along and we send out an OpenReach engineer or someone similar to connect your site to our network, we turn up and we've got a nice piece of fibre with the internet on the other end, and that's how people seem to think. What actually happens is that fibre connects you back to our head office or our core network at one of its nodes. And then in turn, we route that and connect you out to the internet. So we take that concept with MPLS, and instead of just routing you out to the internet, we can bring in various services before you reach the internet. Now, this big circle representing on the screen in front of you is what we call our secure core network. it is a ring of steel or whatever you want to call it, but effectively we've got multiple data centres around London and they interconnect to each other, and they therefore provide resilient services across these data centres. Single point of failures don't really exist, so if one of the data centres goes offline, loses connectivity, has a power failure, for example, everything should fail over to one of the other data centres. So our aim is to keep you on net and operational as much as we physically can. First rule of MPLS, or first thing you might want to be doing with it, is to interconnect your sites. So you can see here on the left-hand side, I've got multiple sites. They've all got circuits bringing those sites back to Spitfire's core network. Now, those can run lots of services. You'll see indicated there, internet, voice services, cloud services, etc. But at this point, it's a private network. There is no public internet access. The sites are connecting site to site, effectively direct connections. You've got VLANs between them. You've got ACLs to secure the network. So site A may want to be able to access resources on site B, but not on site C. Sadly, we're not omnipresent. We can't plug you into Starbucks, but by using VPNs, we can add in sites that, for whatever reason, can't directly connect to our network. They may be a serviced office that won't allow connectivity. It may be someone working from home. Although, as Adrian said, they have home workers on their network, and we do connect them in via Spitfire circuits, and that fits their business setup. But effectively, what we've got here is all sites interconnected, private network, quality circuits, low latency, SLAs backed. And what that's going to give you is good quality inter-site connectivity. So if you're hosting services back at your head office, you want your other sites to be able to access those services, you can do so. No VPNs required for anything that's on network, no dedicated hardware, and you've got predictable performance between point A and point B. So if point A is a 50 meg Ethernet circuit and point B is a, let's say, 20 meg Ethernet circuit, just for easy maths, you will get that 20 meg between those sites all day, every day, if that's what you choose to do. Clearly, we need to expand some services onto these because it'd be nice just to live and not connect to the internet, but it can be quite useful. So what we do is we interconnect your MPLS network, your private network, to other on-network services. Now, the obvious one in the middle there with the WWWs is the internet, and most of our MPLS networks will have access to the internet as part of the service. We can secure that by shared routing, shared network, or we can deploy dedicated firewalls for your business on the perimeter. And when I say firewalls, that could be an active-passive pair or a single firewall. So what you might have, and if we take the slide as an example, we've got 3 sites there, all routing through a single high availability pair of firewalls, which means you've only got one set of network security to worry about. We get increasing number of conversations with customers looking at compliance, looking at things like PCI, FCA, and cyber essentials. And what they're having to do is audit their own networks, document them. It's a lot easier when you've only got one point of egress, i.e. one firewall. So this naturally plays into that. It gives you a much more easy network to manage from the periphery. As Adrian says, Igloo take voice services from us. They use Spitfire SIP trunks. And that MPLS is directly connected into our SIP network. What that means is that there is no internet traversing of that voice call. So user down on site connects via MPLS to our core network. The core network clearly interconnects directly into the SIP network, and our SIP trunks directly connect to good old-fashioned PSTN BT networks. There is no internet connectivity in that. And that way we can offer Ofcom regulated SIP trunks, and we can also provide a voice call quality guarantee to our customers. So definitely good quality, and I'm sure Adrian will back me in saying that call quality is essential to his business telephone-based business.
Absolutely, yeah.
Moving on to some of the slightly stranger ones, the green box there on net data centres. As I said, we have presence in 4 data centres. One of those is private, it's Spitfire owned. The other 3 are public data centres around London, and they obviously have ongoing networks. We actively encourage our partners and our customers to deploy any dedicated systems in those data centres, and by means simply of a cross-connect, that cage in that data centre becomes a site on their MPLS network. From a partner perspective, we have a number of partners who are delivering hosted services from those types of sites, and then interconnecting their customers via a Spitfire MPLS. So if we look at the diagram again and imagine that the 3 houses on the left are 3 different customers, and out of the on-net data center you may, let's say, be offering hosted desktop as a service, each of your customers is going to get the benefits of MPLS, albeit that they are a single customer, segmented from the others, but connecting to your effectively multi-tenanted platform. So we've got a number of customers doing that, partners doing that for their customers, whether that's phone systems, Citrix-based systems, virtual desktops, etc. They're finding that that's a very effective way of giving quality service and high-quality connectivity to their customers. The last box on the top is a service that we call Cloud Connect. Now, hopefully some of you are familiar with AWS and Microsoft Azure, and in turn, in fact, Office 365. Those platforms provide the ability to directly connect into those networks. Now, those connections, in AWS, it's a system known as Direct Connect. In Azure, it's Express Route. And effectively, what we have is a direct cross-connect into those networks in our data center locations. Now, what that means to you as an MPLS user or to your customers using your service is that you can enable a low latency, bandwidth guaranteed connection into your cloud platform. So effectively, the cloud has now just been anchored to reality. So if you are deploying systems in the cloud in, let's say, AWS Dublin, then we can give you, I think it's about a 10 millisecond hop from our core into that network. And then let's say you took a VLAN with 100 meg, you would get 100 meg throughput up and down all day, every day, if that's what you chose to have. Clearly, that means that your sites are connecting to your hosted services or your cloud services effectively as if they're on a LAN network, all secured in the normal way that AWS or Azure would do so. So you can put in your own perimeter firewalls, you can put egress out to the internet that way, you can have a DMZ if you've got customer-focused services, etc. But effectively, what you're doing is bringing those cloud services onto your LAN and securely doing it. So that gives you an overview, really, of MPLS, what it can deliver, hopefully how it works. What I'm just going to run through is some of the benefits to your customers. So the first thing is it's assured quality. As I say, depending on the circuits used, each of those circuits will have a performance level SLA. Ethernet circuits will have bandwidth, latency, jitter, packet loss guarantees, but we can also connect broadband circuits in. They don't have quite the same performance guarantees, but they will have service levels for availability. And because we're effectively not traversing the internet, they've got very predictable performance. There are no IPsec VPNs, so no specialist hardware. These are just normal internet routers. They're just routing back to our core network. You as an IT service provider doesn't have to sit there managing an IPsec VPN and its unpredictable nature. Similarly, as I say, you don't have to spend your time managing that or configuring it. And Adrian will, I'm sure, back me on this, that his infrastructure management time is significantly reduced because Spitfire effectively are doing all the work, but also that the network is simplified in its nature. You're not talking about lots of separate networks you're plumbing together. You're talking about local networks with access rules between them. So it's more simple by nature. All connectivity is private, doesn't traverse the internet, and that brings into things like the compliance, the security aspects, the predictability. And then finally on that, you gain these access to the on-net services. So while at one end of the scale we might have a business that has 2 sites and all they want to use MPLS for is interconnecting those 2 sites. They may be geographically diverse. They can't afford a point-to-point circuit because it's prohibitively expensive, whereas having effectively 2 circuits connected via MPLS gives them technically a similar solution, i.e. guarantee the short bandwidth between the 2, low latency connection. Because they're not paying for a dedicated piece of fibre between 2 sites, it becomes very cost effective. At the other end of the scale, the customer may have, similar to Igloo, a full collection of the services and bringing all of those online. So it does scale for all. I'm going to hand you back to Adrian. I'm going to be quiet for a couple of minutes while he gives some highlights of why Igloo and Spitfire are working together and his perspective as a customer as to the benefits that's giving him.
Yeah, so the main thing for us really is flexibility for both connecting people in from different locations, but also accessing other services. There's a big focus at the moment on moving services into AWS, and the low latency and the bandwidth we can get via Spitfire really helps us get this underway. It was very, very straightforward to connect straight into AWS, and we now do have that 10 milliseconds latency between our Wimbledon office, our Portsmouth office, and AWS. So we can now seamlessly move applications into that. The other benefit really, as I briefly touched on earlier briefly, was the flexibility of connecting home workers in. It effectively means that we can provision a Spitfire line into somebody's home and bring them onto our MPLS network. And we rely on Spitfire segmenting the home workers off our main network, and we can just allow them to connect into our systems with no VPN. This, as a result, is reducing support calls to us. That was a big draw for us due to the high number of home workers we're employing around the world. The other benefit really was connecting Portsmouth and Wimbledon sites together. There's a call centre in both, quite high volume, hundreds of thousands of minutes a month going through those call centres, and calls are frequently handed between the 2 sites, conference calls as well, calls bouncing around different places, and just having the confidence that call quality is assured has been fantastic for us.
I imagine the configuration of your phone system across 2 sites, where they are effectively locally networked, is so much more simple than configuring that across a VPN to work effectively.
Yeah, well, it's as if you're in the same building, so our phone system isn't even aware that it is set up as another site to help us configure it, but network-wise, it's as if it's in the same location, which is fantastic for us. Other things like database mirroring we can do across sites. It's low latency enough to allow us to do that. So we've got all sorts of options really. And finally, I think another big benefit is just the fact that it's managed. So unlike other providers, it's been very easy for us to get in touch with technical folks at Spitfire and get changes made specifically to routing and ACLs. That's now managed in their full network rather than on ours. So it's been particularly good for us. I'd also quickly touch on the resilient circuits. That's also something that we jumped at. I think Andy can probably explain this a bit better, but it just basically means that if we're 2 diverse lines going out via different telephone exchanges, so there's redundancy in all sites, so single points of failure are eliminated. So all round it's working very well for us.
Yeah, sorry, I was reading the questions coming in while Adrian was talking. I'll say I will pick up these questions at the end. Just on the diverse routing there, clearly it's key that you stay online while they're working. Because we have the ability to pretty much connect any site, any circuit that we offer into MPLS, and we offer multiple nodes on our network, we can diversely connect sites. So in Igloo's case, at each of their two main sites, they have two circuits, and those circuits are geographically diverse, and they terminate at two different nodes on our network. But from a network perspective, those are seen as a single circuit. So the routing, all of the network management is simplified. It's just one circuit, but from a physical element, there are two circuits. So any one of those can fail, and it's completely transparent to the way that the business operates. And that's kind of the Rolls-Royce solution. There are, I won't go down as far as saying Skoda versions, but there are mid versions as well, where we can offer backup broadbands and, let's say, less performing circuits as a very cost-effective option to keep people going in the unlikely event that the primary circuit fails. And some of those are as expensive as free. We generally offer free broadband backups to fibre Ethernet circuits. So this is something we're very keen on ensuring, is that our customers stay up and online in all events. Even if their performance on that circuit is impacted, they're not completely offline. But your partner managers, account managers can discuss all those options for you. Thanks for that, Adrian. Just to give you some benefits for you as service providers or as partners, rather than just the customer benefits. I will keep going on. There is no IPsec VPN overhead. There's no tunnels to manage. It's consistent, reliable performance, and there's no specialist hardware or VPN licenses. Now, we have a lot of customers. In fact, we got one customer with pushing 500 sites, and they wanted to create VPNs across them. Just the cost of the routers alone was prohibitive. We've put very low-end broadband routers on these broadband circuits, and clearly that scales up. But that does also apply to a three-site business that's looking to buy 3 firewalls, VPN licenses. Rather than that, they can put one firewall in the data center or at the periphery and manage that, and not worry about is it my application that's not performing well? Am I using all the bandwidth? Or is it the VPNs wobbling? Solution we provide is fully monitored, fully supported, so you gain access to a SolarWinds portal, so you can see the utilization, you can see if there are any challenges, i.e., let's say there's a fault on the circuit, but we'll be monitoring those and advising and seeing you through any issues as well. Obviously, that leaves you to focus on other things, whether it's your end customer or it's yourselves, or in fact, you looking after your customer. You can focus on what you want to be selling. Now, in my history, I didn't want my engineers looking after VPNs all the time because they were time-consuming and not profitable, whereas managing remote desktop environments and other things like that were much more of what I wanted to be doing as a businessman. Okay. However, you will still earn commission or margin as a reseller from Spitfire. So you kind of get the best of both worlds, earning money on a product that you're no longer supporting, but freeing up time to do your core business. Everything is underpinned by credit-backed SLAs. So we don't just say, oh, we'll give you a 99.95% uptime. In fact, our Ethernets are at 100% target, 100% availability target, which means as soon as there's a failure, there is a credit in place, and that's automated. You don't have to argue for it. It's basically the circuit went down. Here is a credit. We believe that the best credits in the industry. So, clearly, we don't want to be having major faults, and we know that you representing us to your customers, if we have a fault, that reflects bad on yourself. So clearly there's a focus there for us. Last thing is, with the fact that they will be saving money in many circumstances, and this is going to free up your customers' IT budgets. So again, they should have more pounds in their pockets to spend on your services. I said I'd mention some of the myths around MPLS, and these are probably the most common. The first being it's only for large corporates. Now, Igloo are fairly large company. However, we do go down to customers with 1 or 2 sites where MPLS will suit them and be cost effective. We're more than willing to share pricing on this. Please speak to your partner manager and he'll go through some examples for you. But just to give you an idea, if you want to terminate an Ethernet circuit into an MPLS network, the monthly rental uplift is £10. And there is actually an offset on Ethernet against the bandwidth. So often it can be relatively neutral or a couple of percent incremental price increase. So it's not expensive. Consequently, it's open to SMEs. Even if they're just connected via broadband, it can be the most cost-effective way of interconnecting sites. We have a number of customers that might have, let's say, 2 or 3 sites, VDSL, high-speed broadband circuits, and that's it, connected via MPLS. Kind of covers the second point of being expensive. And the last point, complexity. We handle all the complexity. So realistically, as network managers, LAN managers, all we're asking you for are subnets and security rules between those subnets. We pretty much do everything else. That said, it's also flexible. So as Adrian said, we connect them through to AWS. We run BGP into AWS. So if you create a new network up there, it's automatically accessible if that's what you choose. So you're not having to ring us up and go, please add another network with a load of other control. It's just there. So very easy to manage both the rollout and any future changes. I'm going to bring on to questions. I actually go straight through to one question that I was asked earlier. The one thing is, how easy is it to roll out MPLS? Now, it's a bit of a how long's a piece of string. However, every project has a dedicated project manager. And our typical MPLS rollouts for 2 or 3 sites, maybe 4 or 5, will only attract maybe half a day's worth of project management time. Clearly, we have to have the circuits in place, and lead times around circuits can vary. But other than that, from your perspective as a partner, it's filling in a spreadsheet which consists of 1 line per site, and then working with the project manager to agree the timelines. So these are not complex implementations. Some things can cause complexity. If you have lots of subnets, it can add a bit of complexity. If they overlap, it definitely causes complexity. But other than that, it's a relatively straightforward project. To give you an idea, Adrian, how long did it take to get AWS connected?
Extremely quick.
Days.
Yeah, because our network was ready for it. I think really it depends on how ready you are as a company. Spitfire is fairly quick. If you can get it, if you're ready, then it's ready to go.
If you've already got AWS, or as you're working with a VPN in place to connect back, all you do is create a connection, place the order. I think our timeline for turnaround is 2 to 3 working days. It's live for you to use, and at that point, I have done it myself, sadly, and once you know what you're doing, it's an hour's work. We can guide you through the process. Clearly, there might be some tuning to make it right, but we're not talking about months and months of network configuration here. It's a relatively straightforward process. So these should be easy projects. Generally, the complexity is around the logistics of migration, but often we can lay these over the top of current infrastructure and make sure that there's no disruption. Just moving on to next question. Just going to read this one out. Someone said, one of our issues with MPLS network is we lose access to all traffic information for individual sites. We can only see network traffic information through our firewall at the perimeter. Now, I did touch on this. Our MPLS is fully monitored, SNMP monitoring via SolarWinds, and that's a portal visible to yourselves. So you can actually see all traffic traversing between sites in much the same way that you would do if you were managing the perimeter on multiple sites. I don't know how familiar people will be with SolarWinds, but it's one of the market-leading monitoring packages, and will give you access to lots of historical stats, trends, graphs, logs, etc. But also we'll work with you on that. So if you're seeing a problem and you can't diagnose it yourself, you can call into support and someone will sit there and have a look at it for you and figure out what's going on. And that's not just at a pure connectivity level. That's clearly we're managing that network interaction. Realistically, you're going to get hands-on network support from us. I'm just conscious of timings here. That we're running a bit loose. We do have some more questions. I think what we're going to do at this stage is wrap up. But the questions that we've got, we'll collate them through and send them through to you as part of a follow-up pack. You'll also get a link to the recording if you want to review anything, and we'll probably put some supporting documentation in there as well. What I'm going to do at this point is thank everyone for attending. Thank you all for staying as well. I noticed that not many people have dropped out. We've still got lots of attendees, so that's great. And look forward to feedback. You will get a follow-up email. And as I say, if you've got any follow-up questions, please respond, and we'll take those up. And if you're happy to, we'll distribute them to the audience. Again, thank you for your time, and look forward to the next one on the next topic in future. Thank you to everyone.